It was in the early 1970s that the Bendigo Tramway reached a crossroads. The Victorian Parliament had granted the State Electricity Commission's application for abandonment of the tramways. But the people of Bendigo weren't quite ready to say goodbye. As the last day of service loomed, public opinion was running high.
The trams in Bendigo, and he said to me, "What are you doing about the trams in Bendigo? If someone doesn't do something soon, those trams are going to be dispersed all over the world." And I said to him, "Alistair, what can one person do in a situation like this?" And I will never forget what he said. He said, "You'll be amazed what one enthusiastic, energetic person can do in this world." Okay.
The Bendigo Trust was established in 1970 because of concern in the community that the legacy of the past was being squandered. With the tramway system under threat, a small study group was set up by the Bendigo Trust to look at retaining the trams. In July 1971, they submitted a proposal to the Bendigo City Council asking to keep the trams as a tourist attraction. By August, the council gave its positive backing.
I believe Bendigo has an opportunity to become as renowned for its trams as it is for its gold. And this is important, and the only time for action is now, underlined emphatically.
After receiving hundreds of letters from Bendigonians and a petition with over 5,000 signatures, it wasn't too long before the state government also came to the party.
But just the enthusiasm of the citizens of Bendigo,
It was an amazing
you know,
time.
in addition to the signatories, was phenomenal.
It was amazing.
I don't think there has been another issue where Bendigo people got behind a cause.
The different complexion of the state government obviously caused them a lot of reflection about what was being asked for in Bendigo, and I think they recognised as it was getting closer to an election that there was popular support for what we were on about, and I think that as much as anything led to the decision to support us.
Of course, not everyone was supportive.
Well, they had these plans for a divided road up Macrae Street.
Yeah.
And they were determined to build that, and this keeping the trams was going to thwart that long-held civil engineering ambition.
Detractors suggested that a bunch of enthusiasts couldn't run a tramways.
They were maintaining that a group like ours did not have the expertise or the knowledge, the engineering nous, anything to run
To operate the rotary converter.
important electric installation.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's where Murray got involved.
That's
You must have been all of about 23 or 4.
Yeah.
And you rang me and asked me to have a look at this power supply issue. And yes, we wrote the report, looked at various options, recommended the solid state rectifier to provide the 600 volts DC, and that was subsequently built, and I think it's probably still running today.
It was built by Ken Hesse, the late Ken Hesse, who really was a tower of strength for the young committee. There was a man of 70 odd, with this band of 20 somethings, and Vic Smythe, very highly respected air conditioning and plumbing business. The two of them probably lent a lot more weight than maybe we understood.
In the interim, the SEC was moving ahead with its plans and was fielding inquiries from tramway museums all over Australia interested in acquiring some of Bendigo's trams for their collections, unbeknown to the Bendigo Trust.
The Minister of the day, the Honourable Belfer, had promised to give the trams to all the various museums, particularly the Burnies to the TMSV, Trams and Museum Society, and also to Adelaide as well.
On the 11th of September 1972, the Bendigo Trust got the great news that their state application to run the trams on a trial basis as a tourist service had been approved, and they immediately got to work readying trams for the launch in December. But it wasn't long before the minister's plans came to light.
There were two signs that appeared on two of the Burnie trams, not any of the other trams, the Burnie trams in particular. And one was for the number 11, which said no work to be done on this tram number 11. and that tram was destined to go to the Tramways Museum Society of Victoria, supposedly. And the second sign was placed on tram number 29, and it had a similar sign put on it, no work to be done on this tram number 29. I think Ken Hesse then made some inquiries with Ray Downey, the SEC manager, to find out just exactly what was going on, and that's when things began to evolve as far as what was really behind those signs.
It turned out that a truck was on its way from Adelaide to come and pick up tram number 29, and it was already sitting in the depot yard, ready for loading.
Well, of course, once that was revealed, we knew what was going to happen next, because the 4 jacks were immediately adjacent to the tram in the rightful position, as were the carry bars that go across from the jacks. And that sort of started the blood running in many people's veins, and of course there was a call for action.
Yeah, a few of us decided that we were capable of pushing it back in, which we're not able to do now. But we pushed the tram back in without the power, of course, because we didn't have access to the power. So a few of us pushed it back in. Yes, and somebody had welded a piece of pipe across the tram that gave us a lot of publicity, pushing that tram back in, and the pipe being welded across the track.
Now, the statute of limitations is well past. I think you can own up to the fact that you were the person that got out the electrodes and got the welder going and did the job. And we sort of, brushed our hands together at the time. We thought we did a terrific job.
By the next day, there was a barricade of cars outside the depot, and the Mayor of the day, Councillor Joe Pearce, had tipped off the media.
Of course, that immediately caught the attention of the news media in Melbourne, as of course Bendigo was already well aware. And we've got some terrific banners here. Bendigo said for tram battle. It's that's the sort of publicity we really needed at that time.
Councillor Pearce, who was a dentist back then, was waiting for a call about the arrival of the truck.
And it was arranged that at the time I would go to my dental practice in the morning, and our council solicitor was to be alerted, and when the loader arrived we were to go down and to confront them. Mid-morning there, suddenly a male voice called out, "The loader's been turned back at the border."
It seemed that the Adelaide Museum crew had heard about the ruckus and decided to turn back at the state border. With that crisis averted, there was no time to lose. All hands were on deck to get the trams ready for the launch of the first vintage talking tram tour on the 9th of December 1972. Of course, there was many an incident along the way.
Another time where I got caught, the night before we reopened, I'd had people down here, the volunteers, and they were working, and I'd sent them home at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had the last trolley pole rope to put on 25. And I was getting a bit tired by this stage, and I'd tied the rope onto the trolley, and I was hooking it up to the thing, and I walked between the 2 trams forgetting the pit was there. And luckily the bumper bars of the 2 trams were fairly close, and as I dropped down, I rested my arms on it, and boy, did it hurt.
But in the end, the support and collective will of the community was what made it happen.
A lot of good volunteers, that there were a lot to prepare the trams for the 9th of December, and there was a lot of volunteers out there sweeping, because we had to sweep the whole track.
We had so many enthusiastic people. I mean, there hasn't been a cause like it since that has put together so many people with so much energy. I don't know how we did it.
You certainly wouldn't do it today. I don't think you'd be allowed to do it today.
Since then, the 9th of December has become a day to remember and an annual celebration in Bendigo.
But the really great day was when the tram service got going again. I mean, there's a lot of drama between being told we could do it and actually getting to
the point of doing it.
But that day, the people turned out in thousands.
And when you think, band of enthusiasts, with all the problems, we won. And we have got our trams now. We've been running for 40 years, the longest tramway service in the history of Australian tramways.